Welcome to our session. And I'm gonna move around because we're sitting here and you'll be looking at my back. So it's better if I move around so that you are able to see me. And those who are online are also able to see me. Let me first start by introducing myself. My name is Cynthia Lisufi. I'm from South Africa. I'm the chairperson of the ITU Council Working Group on WSIS and SDGs. And I'm really honored to be a moderator of today's session. And I also want to take this opportunity to welcome all of you. And I also want to thank the ITU as a host of this session. Really, we appreciate as South Africa. And I thought also I must also do some sort of an introduction of this session in as far as the objective of it are concerned. Today's session aims to gather your opinions as key stakeholders on the ITU's work during the WSIS Plus 20 review. We will also discuss key topics, including the achievement, the challenges since the Geneva Plan of Action, and how the WSIS process aligns with the 2030 agenda and the future direction of WSIS beyond. Additionally, we'll also highlight the significant contribution that has been made by the ITU to date, which is quite important. And we will also look at what is it and emphasize the importance of engaging diverse stakeholders to ensure that we have a comprehensive and an inclusive review WSIS process and its vision for the future beyond 2025. I would also want to introduce our panelists. We have a number of panelists in here today, and we are joined by the vice chairs of the Council Working Group, the two vice chairs, Ms. Mina Jun and Ms. Renata Toya from Brazil and from Korea. We are also joined by Gitanjali from the ITU, and we are also joined by Ambassador Schneider. Where is he? He's supposed to be here, but he's not here. And we are also joined by my friend Paul Baker from the United Kingdom. And we also joined here by Ian Sheldon. Is he here? Yes. And we are again joined by Miss Maria Gaza from the ICC. Is he in the room? I can't see her. And finally, we are joined by Mr. Osama from the Empowerment Foundation. So before we can dive into our session, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to keep this in mind. I want us to be open and free and discuss so that we are able to share and learn from each other. But most importantly, we collaborate in moving forward with regard to the issue of the review process. And with this, I would want to hand over to our first speaker, which is Ms. Gitanjali from the ITU. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Perhaps we could start with you explaining the ITU's call for input, the origins of it, and the timeline, and then I can take it over from there.
Thank you. I'm gonna do this sitting down. Ladies and gentlemen, those who are in the room and those who are joining us online, I just want us to recall Council Resolution 1332, which was adopted by the Council of October 2024. And in that Council resolution, what was agreed upon was that the ITU needed to issue a call so that you can share your views on the work of the ITU in the WSIS Plus 20 review, including ideas relating to the review of the WSIS action lines. And in that resolution, we also adopted a timeline. And in that timeline, we highlighted the activities that will actually move us forward in as far as the call for inputs on the WSIS Plus 20 review is concerned. And the first activity on the timeline is the online form that was launched indeed by the ITU together with myself as a council chair. That happened in August 2024. And the deadline for the submission on that call is on the 31st of January 2025. And following that, as I've said, we also had a council working group on WSIS and SDG, which is the first meeting, the first physical meeting that we've had in October 2024. And following that, we're going to have in February 2025 an ITU council working group and SDG second physical meeting. And that will then be followed by a side event during the WSIS Plus 20 high-level event in 2025, and that is going to happen between the 7th and 11th of July 2025. I now want to hand over to Gitanjali to take us through the presentation. Thanks. I apologize. I thought we are done. Yes, now I think on this slide, we have the outline of the call, which is divided into four main themes. The first theme is on the implementation of the WSIS process. And it includes a number of activities, or I would say questions in it. And they range from what are the main achievements of the implementation of WSIS process in the past 20 years? What are the ITU main contribution towards the implementation of WSIS process in 20 years? And also, what are the challenges that remain in the implementation of WSIS process? And the next, I would say, thematic area is the WSIS action lines themselves. And with regard to this one, the question there is which specific action lines have had the most significant impact and why? And also, we do have a question under that which says that how can the alignment between the WSIS action lines and the SDG be strengthened towards the achievement of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development? And we do have another thematic area in terms of the call, which is on the WSIS action lines for advancing SDGs. And under that thematic area, we have a question which says, how can the alignment between the WSIS action lines and SDG be strengthened towards achievement of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development? And lastly, we do have a thematic area on the future vision and the WSIS beyond 2025, which has 3 questions in it. And one of the questions says, how can the implementation of WSIS process and the Pact of the Future and its global digital compact be aligned to to achieve the shared goals? And what are the key emerging trends and topics to be considered by the ITU in the WSIS Plus 20 review and future vision beyond 2025? Now, this is the real time to hand over to Gita. Thank you.
So thank you very much. The presentation has disappeared from the screen. So if I could ask the technical colleagues to put it back. So while they're doing that, could you put it back? While they're doing that, so basically my slides were, Cynthia requested me to, take you through what ITU has done in these 20 years. So I know that we have to prepare a report which will be available online very soon. So I presented this in my previous session, so I wouldn't go through this. These were just the milestones and the joint preparatory process, which we spoke about in the previous session. So we won't go through it again, but and these are also available online. So what have we achieved? ITU's mandate is absolutely clear. We have through our governing bodies, we have our plenipotentiary resolution 140, we have our council resolutions, we have our council working group, we have a WSIS task force internally. So our structure and governing body is absolutely clear, and our membership is absolutely clear with what we should do. It's the lead UN agency for ICTs, those of you who don't know. And our main facilitating role is with the WSIS action lines on C2, ICT infrastructure, C4, capacity building, C5, cybersecurity, and C6, enabling policy environments. Apologies for the for the small font. But the key partnerships I want to highlight through the implementation of not only these action lines, but all the 11 action lines is, of course, the GIGA initiatives with ITU and UNICEF, where we are connecting every school worldwide. That's the goal. Equals global partnership. And our Secretary General, of course, also mentioned like a relaunch and reinvigoration of the Equals global partnership. We work closely with UN Women, GSMA, ITC on the Equals. The Connect to Recover, which was very important during COVID. So post-COVID, enhancing ICT infrastructure resilience post-COVID. So ITU stood up after COVID with the Connect to Recover program. The Digital Transformation Centers initiative that ITU does with Cisco. AI for Global Good Summit, ITU and 40 UN partners partnering with tech leaders and the UN to harness AI for health, climate change, disaster management, and so on. The Partner to Connect Digital Coalition, most of you know about the pledges there. The Broadband Commission for Sustainable Development, ITU and UNESCO co-chair. The child online protection activities that we have with many countries here and many multi-stakeholders who are present. Of course, the partnership on measuring ICT for development. So we often, forget out about that one, but that's a very important activity that the statistics divisions of our respective organizations do to measure the impact. Now, for us as ITU, some of the key contributions of WSIS have been the WSIS Forum, a multi-stakeholder platform for convening everyone, the IGF, where we are here today. We can see the impact of the IGF, growing, the multi-stakeholder communities coming in, the WSIS stock-taking database, which is our database of more than 13,000 projects that we have with us. And innovative challenges like the hackathons, the WSIS prizes, and all of that we have been doing. Getting the UN together in under one umbrella, UN in Action. You heard us yesterday. So many of us spoke about that as also one of the successes. Some examples of collaborative projects that ITU has been doing: smart villages, smart islands with local governments and private sectors, Be Healthy, Be Mobile with WHO, cybersecurity initiatives with so many countries, and digital skills for job campaign with ILO. So we cannot talk about 20 years in this short time, but just to give you a glimpse of, all these activities, our report will be available very soon as well. Back to you, Cynthia.
Thank you, Gitanjali, for this elaborate presentation on what is it that the ITU has been doing for the past 20 years and the partnership that you've also highlighted on your presentation. Let me first start by giving the floor to Mr. Osama Manza, the representative of the civil society. And we all know how the civil society is playing a critical role in implementing WSIS Plus 20 at the grassroots level. But we know that you are doing that in partnering together with the ITU. And I also want to believe that WSIS is a success story because of the strong support that we get from the civil society. Please share with us your vision or that of the civil society with regard to the WSIS for the past 20 years and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you for bringing me in because I have to also get out in by 12:30 to catch the flight. So I'm Osama Manzar from Digital Empowerment Foundation based out of India, but I also represent especially APC because I'm a member of APC and also have been on their board for 6 years. I just want to give one example. In 2003, when I joined WSIS in Geneva, we were one person organization, Digital Empowerment Foundation. Today, we are 400 people organization, and we have 2,000 digital access points in India. And we claim on data 35 million people digitally empowered on data. So trying to give that a small little example that what process-oriented impact can create, not only our organization, civil society, but also a large scale impact on ground, which information society, the phrase that is meant for, that everybody should be part of the information society, the most grassroots people, the disabled people, the indigenous communities, the people who are far away without being connectivity even till date, are the examples that we have been able to create. The two more examples I would like to create is that how the payment system for the masses have reached to the village level because of the digital inclusion. How the community networks, which is the people-oriented last mile access, have reached to the in the hands of the people. So even though ITU is a is a union of all the telcos and many of those organizations, but imagine the same has enabled not so named or institutionalized a small little organization doing last mile access to bring in people into the society, both technologically and also in terms of capacity building. Um, uh, just to put in 2-3 processes, because APC have been part of the whole process for the last 20 years, and we have been a participant from the civil society organization. There are two big examples that I can also add into the process, is that National Digital Literacy Mission in India was created by civil society to make the whole country digitally literate. All because of this WSIS impact. We also liberalized the licensing of the internet service provider, that nobody needs a license to buy an internet and to sell the internet. That's also completely liberalized because of this, civil society role to play, that access must be affordable and access must be practical to the local people in an entrepreneurial manner. I will end by saying that there are 3 learnings that we have learned in the last 20-25 years. That while we always talk the WSIS process about digital inclusion, creating information society, but it is also time that our success also wants to consider that there is something that happens because of digital exclusion. You know, difference between the phrase. When you say digital inclusion, you always say that we have included 100 today, then 200, then it's progressive. And you feel happy that we have achieved a lot. But when the people who are left over by not being connected are being totally excluded, their rights are excluded, their opportunities are excluded, then it's a negative impact that we are leaving behind, because everybody, the rules and regulations and the legislations are becoming digital must. Because of digital must, if I don't have access, I cannot have my ration, I cannot have my biometric, I cannot have my identity, I cannot have my access to entitlements. And that is something the process needs to work on in the next 20 years, is that how do we take into consideration the process in such a way that nobody left behind, but even if somebody left behind, they're not excluded from the framework of being included into the digital pervasiveness. And because there is a huge example, for example, in India, even after 25 years, we have 48% people without connectivity. That's a large number. Beside, out of those 50% who are connected, large number are facing misinformation, digital narratives. How do we take care of that? Are the things that we need to take into consideration in the WSIS process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Osama, for sharing such a beautiful story. But however, we also appreciate the learnings that you are also sharing with us. And I think this was going to help a great deal going forward. Let me take this opportunity to give the floor to my vice chair, who is about to leave, but she really wants to speak before she leaves. Amina, Please, you can take the floor.
Thank you, Cynthia. I hope you can hear me well. So I will try to be still. I realize if I move around, my sound is breaking. So I'm Mina Minjam from Republic of Korea, and I'm representing our region here as a vice chair for the Council Working Group on WSIS and SDG. So in Asia Pacific, we have 39 countries. I briefly mentioned this morning. We have a diverse countries in geographically and then culturally. So we have most advanced countries in ICT wise, and then the least developed countries, and then landlocked countries, and then small island countries as well. So it really makes us difficult to meet all the regions' needs from our population. But I would say over the past 20 years, our region have made a significant development progress in advancing the WSIS outcomes. This was possible because we work together with all the nations, and then ITU, and then other WSIS facilitators, and then all the stakeholders as well. So firstly, I would like to say that in ICT infrastructure, the Asia Pacific region has shown the tremendous growth. So the region led the world in mobile cellular subscriptions. So like Japan, China, Korea, we have achieved mobile penetration rates exceeding 100%. But at the same time, the countries such as Bhutan, Myanmar, and Laos have made a significant progress in expanding mobile connectivity and then improving access to ICT. So in addition, in 2024, so 62% of region's population has access to 5G mobile networks. And secondly, and that effort to promote digital inclusion and capacity building has been a core focus in our region. ICT-related projects were implemented across the region to bridge the digital divide, and programs aimed at improving digital literacy have empowered marginalized groups, including women, youth, and persons with disabilities. Certainly, the Asia-Pacific regions has been the foremost of adopting emerging technologies. Countries have embraced the smart city initiatives and then integrating technologies such as AI, IoT, and the big data to enhance the urban sustainability and improve citizens' quality of life. However, we still have facing the significant challenges for our region. According to the ITU data, the percentage of individuals using the internet in this region increased from 48% in 2019 to 66% in 2024. But this is still below the global average. And this means approximately 1/3 of the population in our region is still unconnected. So the digital divide is particularly also evident between the urban and rural areas. Internet usage in urban areas is 83%, but in rural areas it's just 49%. So this makes a significant urban and rural gap of like 34% points. But the positive side, our youth internet adoption stands out as a bright spot. So around 81% of individuals aged 15 to 24 use the internet, which is 15% point higher than the overall regional average of 66%. So this highlights the potential for youth to drive the digital transformation and then connectivity in our region. In summary, the Asia-Pacific region, through the combined efforts of member states and ITU and other all stakeholders, have made significant strides in achieving WSIS action lines. And I encourage our regions to do it continuously. And then I want to emphasize the importance to share our experience with our regions and then world. So briefly say that Korea has released our 20 years of WSIS achievement last year as a whole report, but I encourage our region countries to do the same things, to share our motives and experience to let the world know. So this was my brief explanation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mina, for sharing again how is your region achieving the sustainable development goals through the action lines that are ITU based, and also for highlighting the challenges which are still ahead of us, and for also encouraging everyone to keep on sharing their achievements so that we can learn and build the future of tomorrow. I now want to give the floor to ICC.
Thank you very much. Is it okay, the mic? Perfect. ICC is the institutional representative of more than 45 million companies located in over 170 countries. And through a unique mix of advocacy, solutions, and standard settings, we promote international trade, responsible business conduct, and a global approach to regulation. Our members include many of the world's leading companies, but as you can imagine, the majority of them are SMEs and business associations and local chambers of commerce. ICC was the local point for the WSIS process that started in Geneva over 20 years ago. And since then, the business had continued to stay engaged through ICC Business Action to support the Information Society initiative on the WSIS follow-up work streams processes at the WSIS Forum year by year to take stock of the implementation of the WSIS action lines and chart the path together with partners from all stakeholders. 20 years ago, the WSIS process envisioned the development of a global people-centered information society, one where everyone can truly benefit from the enormous opportunities that the internet, the information and communication technologies, and the digital transformation has to offer. And this was a vision not only for the governance of the internet, but for harnessing its unique potential for inclusive and sustainable growth, helping populations everywhere develop and thrive. WSIS also made clear that we have a shared responsibility in sharing this inclusive information society, jointly cooperating across all stakeholders groups to find minimum solutions to common challenges. And we have come a long way since 2003, but our greater challenge still remains. We still have over 2 billion people that it's unconnected. And we all know that it takes more than just access to the internet connection to fully benefit of the opportunities of digitalization. And we also know that governments alone cannot meet the investment needs and implementation challenges of expanding meaningful connectivity. And that the private sector has been a pioneer and a partner in bridging this gap. So to continue and upscale business investment, we need enabling policy. We need a policy environment. And the WSIS plus 20 process can help in clarifying what is that environment and how it looks like. But it's important that policymakers understand how the private sector makes the investment decisions, as well as how political and regulatory decisions impact the technical functioning of the infrastructure or service. Ultimately, an enabling environment is one that stimulates the necessary investment in a way that results in sustainable facility or service over time. And that means a few things must be in place: a stable legal and regulatory environment, open markets and free flow of data across borders, a holistic whole of government approach to policy making, and finally, but probably the most important, a multi-stakeholder partnership. Close cooperation with businesses and other stakeholders is beneficial to ensure that implemented policies pave the way for them to maximize opportunities while addressing issues that are relevant locally and respecting the local culture and the social norms. An enabling environment facilitates public-private partnerships in implementation of projects, but it also considers the views of those that are required to implement the policies from the first moments of the policy creation. At ICC, we work with both the public and the private sector to co-create such enabling environments, ensure strong and meaningful business contribution to multi-stakeholder dialogues, and promote open and inclusive digital cooperation for the people, for the planet, and for prosperity. And this is why we participate year after year in the WSIS Forum, organized by ITU and its partners, and why we have joined the ITU as a member of the ITU telecommunication development sector. With its long history in contributing to the WSIS process, its technical expertise and convening power, the ITU is well positioned to assess and to understand how the global policy landscape looks like and foster collaborative approaches among governments, industry, and other stakeholders to leverage the WSIS Plus 20 review towards building enabling policy and regulatory environments that are holistic, interoperable, and drive investment and innovation in the digital economy. We count on the ITU to advance multi-stakeholder dialogue by engaging governments, business, civil society, technical and academic communities to ensure that the WSIS Plus 20 outcomes reflect diverse perspectives and actionable recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria, for sharing the perspective of the private sector towards this Plus 20 process. And we also, I think, for me, listening to what you're saying, what the take that I'm really getting out of this is the co-creation of the enabling environments, which is quite key for us as policymakers to consider when we develop the policies. I would now want to give the floor to Ian from Australia. And Ian, I want you to share with us Australia's approach to the WSIS Plus 20 review process and your plans for responding to the ITU call through WSIS Council Working Group and the implementation of the WSIS action lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you for having a distinguished panel. I wanted to start. Over the last 20 years, WSIS's 11 action lines have supported the internet to become a remarkable success story, and demonstrated that when all stakeholders work together, we can harness the full potential of technologies such as the internet. And I did want to make a point to say that the internet we're all here today at is a great example of fostering the opportunities for the multi-stakeholder community, bringing together policymakers, industry, academia, civil society, and the technical community to come together and discuss key issues of importance. The IGF has also led to the creation of 90 national and regional initiatives, and has given a voice to individuals and groups across the world, shaping local solutions and new opportunities, and has also sparked a lot of key vital initiatives such as the growth of IXPs, community networks, and has fostered the next generation of leaders. So from our perspective, fostering innovation is at the core of WSIS. We see the WSIS Plus 20 review as an opportunity to continue building on this spirit of multi-stakeholder collaboration and set out an ambitious positive agenda to ensure that all countries and citizens continue to benefit from this digital world. It's with this core multi-stakeholder approach that I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about how Australia is preparing for the WSIS Plus 20 review. We see multi-stakeholderism as vital and a core component to the WSIS's success over the last few decades, and will carry us through many more years to come. And it's the multi-stakeholder engagement which needs to be baked into the heart of the review process. So in Australia, we're taking a truly grassroots approach to our multi-stakeholder preparations, and bringing together all parts of our community to work alongside policymakers as we prepare to engage in this review process. We can truly leverage the expertise of those who live and breathe the entire digital landscape. And we can ensure that we continue to make sure our negotiating points are well informed. So Australia's approach to the WSIS Plus 20 is based on 6 key steps. Evaluating WSIS so far, identifying gaps and future opportunities, considering the evidence, analyzing options and solutions, consulting and building in that feedback, and then finally working through to agree on common ground ahead of the WSIS +20 resolution. This will be guided by a number of core principles, which we believe are key to building trust from the multi-stakeholder community. So that is, of course, being truly multi-stakeholder in the way we engage, openness and transparency, listening to and building on the perspectives and voices of all, making sure that what we do is holistic and evidence-based, and we do continue to take a long-term view to these priorities. We are quite keen to ensure that that all countries also get a real opportunity to take part in these discussions. We know that these processes will be quite complicated with many moving parts, and so we're very keen to reach out and work across the region as well as globally to work together on navigating this complexity. And we are quite keen to continue to, I guess, show how multi-stakeholders had worked for us, and continue to demonstrate how it will continue to be of benefit to many other countries as we navigate this complex world. I might pause there as far as Australia's preparations go, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions in due course. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ian, for being so elaborative in terms of Australia's approach and sharing Australia's successes in terms of the WSIS and the IGF frameworks, and for also volunteering, putting forward your intention to partner and to share what Australia has learned and what Australia is actually intending to do going forward. Can I now take this opportunity to give the floor to Ambassador Schneider from Switzerland to really share with us Switzerland's view. And in doing that, we also want to recognize the fact that Switzerland has been an ITU partner since the Geneva Plan of Action in designing the WSIS process. So, Ambassador, can you kindly share with us the summary of the WSIS high-level event of 2024 in your intervention, and also provide with us the vision that summary is actually highlighting? And yes, thanks.
Yes. Does it work? Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you very much. I've already spoken quite a number of times here. I think we should give voices. We should walk the talk and should give voices to also others. I will try to be brief. Gitanjali has already mentioned earlier this morning that the chairman summary is available on a website. It's easy to read. I think I can only encourage you to quickly go through it on the ITU's website. It is basically looking back at what has been achieved, identifying some gaps, some shortcomings. And what I would like to use, like 1 or 2 minutes of my intervention now, is actually to try and trigger a common understanding of not just the WSIS process per se, but also the particular function of the WSIS forum, the high-level event next year should be, because some people, there's some uncertainty. Can you hear me? Some people are not really sure about what the different elements of this process bring. So let me just share with you our understanding, and I hope that helps. And then, of course, let's see to what extent you agree. But in our view, the annual WSIS forum, its main role is to look at the action lines of the Geneva phase, but actually also at the Tunis agenda and the agreements of the second phase, and to see to what extent we have achieved these goals, and to what extent there are gaps that need to be filled. And actually, if you look at the action lines, some of them are substantive, but others are rather more process orientated, where probably it's not it is obvious that there's no end to this. For instance, if you look at the first action line, it is about the role of governments and all stakeholders in the promotion of ICTs for development. And this is something that never ends. We have to continuously discuss the role of all stakeholders in using digital tools to achieve the SDGs. So for instance, this is of a different nature than, for instance, Action Line 3, access to information and knowledge. But also there's never an end, because we have new tools, we have platforms, we have social media that can help us give access to information and knowledge, but they can also be, let's say, give us access to disinformation and other kinds of data. So I think in our view, the WSIS Forum should be used to look back and see what have we achieved of these goals. How are we supposed to understand them now? What are the gaps? Like we have done last year to some extent, but I think that there's more to come. But, and I think this is the difference now that we have the GDC. The GDC has already done to some extent this analysis, not necessarily through going through the action lines one by one, but through identifying gaps in the sense that what are new issues that we need to tackle. And I think this is the WSIS Forum is also one opportunity to take the GDC into the analysis to see, okay, if we look at the gaps, what are the gaps that are already identified, or the emerging issues that are already identified by the GDC, and knowing that the GDC will not have a huge structure to implement it, make proposals on how these goals and visions identified by the GDC can be integrated in the implementation structure of the WSIS. I think this is something that in our view would be a very useful value added that the WSIS High-Level Forum can create, of course, together with other important events and structures like the CSTDs, trying to bring together a lot of things already in April, so we can build also on, in July, we can also build on what is produced in April. But I think, yeah, we don't have the resources for huge exercise on agreeing on new principles and new action lines. We have the substance, the action lines are there, the GDC vision is there. If we can use the WSIS Forum to see, okay, what have we achieved? What are the gaps? How do we prepare the discussions for the overall review at the end of next year? What could be a concrete structure? How do we need to cooperate among the stakeholders? So this is actually, again, action line 1, which is one of the most important for us. How do we cooperate? What is the structure? What is our vision on cooperation in order to implement the outstanding WSIS or the never-ending WSIS action lines and goals of the Tunis agenda and the GDC? For us, this is really the core, that we use the processes next year to bring everything together and not to create more new diverse tracks that we all struggle with to somehow know what is going on. How does this all play together? I think the WSIS Forum next year could really be a catalyst in trying to bring all of this together, looking back, looking at what we've achieved, what are the gaps, which gaps and visions have already identified in the new text, and how do we bring all of this together? That would be, let's say, the plea from our side on how to best use the processes next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador, for sharing with us your views in terms of how we can approach the WSIS high-level event next year in relation to the what is contained in the GDC. We really thank you for that. And I now want to take this opportunity to give the floor to Paul from the United Kingdom. But maybe before you take the floor, Paul, I want to say that we acknowledge the key role that you've been playing since WSIS +10, but not only that, but also for your involvement in the WSIS process of the ITU, but also for your involvement in the CSTD. Can you kindly share with us your experience and the UK approach in responding to the Council Working Group's call and the overall review process? Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. My name is Paul Blaker. I represent the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology in the UK. And the UK has been a very strong supporter of the WSIS process, and we will continue to be so. I'd like quickly to thank South Africa and the ITU for organizing this great session, and thank Cynthia in particular for the leadership that she's bringing to the Council Working Group at the ITU and for the initiative of this consultation. I think the consultation will be a really critical opportunity to gather views and ideas on the implementation of the WSIS action lines and how we can ensure they are fit for the future. And I hope that all members of the IGF community will take a look at it and make a contribution into that process. I think it is worth looking back briefly at just how much we have achieved through the WSIS process over the last 20 years. Only 17% of people had access to the internet in 2005. I think now the figure is 67%, and we've seen new applications, new services transforming all of our societies. And that progress has only been possible because of the multi-stakeholder approach, which is at the beating heart of the whole of the WSIS process. And we see the WSIS Plus 20 as an opportunity to renew and strengthen our commitment to cooperation and partnership between governments, the private sector, the civil society, the technical community. And it's vital that that review process is itself a multi-stakeholder process, and all communities have the opportunity to contribute. Because there is so much more to do. 1/3 of the world's population is still offline, and that must be an urgent priority to connect the unconnected. And we face new opportunities and new challenges. At the WSIS 20 years ago, no one was focusing on the impact of social media, the impact of AI, virtual reality, other technologies, issues such as the gender digital divide, the environmental impact of ICTs, human rights and other issues were not featuring as strongly as perhaps they should today. And I think we have to make sure that the WSIS review process makes sure WSIS is up to date and is fit for the future. We think that one of the great strengths of the action lines is the way that they do not focus on individual technologies. I think if they did, they would very quickly be out of date. But instead, they focus on the social, economic, cultural impacts of those technologies. And that is why they are still so relevant today. So when we think about AI, for example, we need to think about it in terms of capacity building, in terms of applications, linguistic and cultural diversity, ethical issues. All of these aspects are there in the action lines. I think those action lines give us a comprehensive and a durable framework. And what we need to do in the WSIS review is make sure we are using them to address the new issues that we face. I think one final point, I think we should recognize as well the great support that we have had from all of the action line facilitators throughout this process in facilitating and supporting the development of so many outstanding partnerships. And I really hope that during the WSIS review process, all the action line facilitators will bring their expertise and their experience to the table. It's also very good to see other agencies involved. So I'm very, very pleased that UNOHCHR is playing a very strong role, including at this IGF. UN Women, for example, I think UN Women did not exist at the time of the WSIS, and we really need to hear those voices as part of the process. This ITU consultation is a really good example of the kind of preparatory discussions we should be having as we prepare for the WSIS process. And I hope that we can continue to build on this collaboration and this partnership. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul, for sharing with us UK's perspective on the WSIS Plus 20 process. We really appreciate. Can I now give the floor to my vice chair, saving the best for last? Can you, Renata, share with us the perspective of your region and what are the plans going forward in relation to the WSIS process? Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cynthia. We believe that, okay, with this plus 20, we need to update the action lines, being aligned with SDGs. We have a very few time to do a lot of work. We have a huge ecosystem to deal with, but we think we need to pay attention to different levels of needs. When you're talking about gaps, for example, we have a lot of different regional challenges. And I think it was very interesting when Nazama said about the network communities, because it, in our perspective, we have these kind of basic needs already. So we think that like SDG 4, when you talk about education, actions lines, when you talk about capacity building, they're very, very important to talk about meaningful connectivity, to teach to very unserved people and indigenous people and people that have never had contact with internet. That's one kind of challenge we have. I can talk some examples in Brazil, for like community networks that we are incentivizing a lot. We are doing a very big work on this, and also we have a lot of organizations doing work in Amazonia, talking to people that have no idea what internet is. So we think that's a kind of challenge, and we have already this kind of challenge for the future and talking about beyond 2025. And on the other hand, we have some challenges. They're like global challenges when we talk about new and emerging technologies like AI, quantum computing, or IoT, things like that, that we need to we are in a different kind of perspective, and we need to have a multi-stakeholder environment to discuss together, because I think it's impossible just one part decide or have a vision about this, because they are very huge challenge, and I don't think so. Not even us know how to deal with it, so we need to be together. And it's we are talking about experts, people that are very familiar with this kind of environment. So in this side, we can talk about cybersecurity. That's very important, and ethics would be very important, because we really need to talk about this to not leave the technology just not lead us to a democratic environment. So I think these are very important issues that we need to think about for the future. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Renata, for sharing with us the Brazil's perspective into how we need to look at the WSIS Plus 20 review, and for highlighting something that I keep on hearing of, not only focusing on one technology. I heard UK talking about it. Even in the previous session, there was a mention of that from one of the panelists, which is quite interesting to hear. I now want to, because now we have heard from all our speakers, I want to open the floor for your comments as the participants in the room, and I'll also give an opportunity for those who are joining us online to also share their views on what they have heard to date coming from our speakers. I now open the floor. Anyone who wants to take the floor and share their views or have questions? Okay, I give the Barata.
Thank you, Cynthia. My name is Baratang Mia. I am from South Africa. I represent Girl Hype Women Who Code, and we work a lot with women in the digital space. I literally had this meeting saved as the first meeting on my agenda, because I wanted to come here and say, I would prefer if WSIS could be clear when they do the WSIS 20 review about what is it they want to achieve for women and girls. Because sometimes it's so broad. Things we talk about equity, digital, what we should be specifically using, and the word gender is very broad. I think we should say for women and girls, this is what's going to happen. And that's what I would like to see when the review happens.
Thank you, Baratang. ITU wants to respond to that.
Thank you so much for bringing this up. Just to update you that during the Summit of the Future, there were many meetings held by UN Women that ITU supported, where there was this call that the same call that gender should be better highlighted in the next review process and WSIS vision of WSIS beyond 2025. And there was this strong call from several participants to have an action line on gender, which is, of course, this decision will be only taken in the General Assembly. But what we can do is to already start working on a framework, together. Just highlighting exactly what you're saying, that what do we want to see if there was an action line on gender. Perhaps we could already start working with UN Women and ITU and other agencies involved, just to provide a framework that, the action line on gender could have these kind of aspects. So we'll be very looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, Kijantali. And I see Renata okay. Is there anyone? Okay. Yes, I see the gentleman over there.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kosi. I'm a senior. I come from Benin. I'm from Ministry of Economy and Finance in Benin. We're talking about Global Digital Compact today. I want to know if next year we will continue to talk about WSIS reviews again. What will be the challenge for each country to know is I'm doing well or not in WSIS review, or I'm doing well or not on GDP process? What will be the challenge?
Thank you for the question. Is there any member of the panelists who wants to answer that question? Who wants to attempt to answer that question? Okay, ITU.
Sorry, I was a bit distracted with Australia at that time. What's the question? Sorry.
Do you mind to repeat your question again, sir?
Okay, I'm Kosi. I'm a senior from Benin. We are talking about Digital Global Compact now. I want to know if next year we will talk about WSIS reviews again. For me, as ministry, may I evaluate WSIS review process or GDP process?
Thank you for that question. We are reviewing the WSIS process, and GDC, I believe, has its own process. I think it has this 2-year assessment. Someone who's more knowledgeable, so Canada is nodding. So the WSIS has a UN resolution which says that the process should be reviewed, and in 2025 there would be a new vision, basically for WSIS beyond 2025. So we are all working in a joint preparatory process: ITU, UNESCO, UNDP, UNDESA, the CSTD, which we presented to basically gather multi-stakeholder views on the vision of WSIS beyond 2025. So to answer your question, the two processes are a bit different in the UN system. The WSIS process will be reviewed in 2025, and the GDC has this 2-year thing. Maybe, Dave, do you want to add something to that? Because I'm not very knowledgeable on the GDC.
Sure. Sorry, just a quick answer on that one is in the GDC itself, it describes that there'll be a high level event in 2027. which is the review of the GDC itself. So there are obligations around the implementation, but the actual review of the GDC itself isn't scheduled until UNGA 82, which is in 2027.
I see. Okay, Paul, can I just give
Thank you so much. My name is Damilare Oyedele. I work with Library Aid Africa. Thank you so much for your presentation. Very clear and good one. So my comments I have is how, as we progress from here, okay, what are the pathways to leveraging libraries as key partners and access point towards achieving digital future? Because leveraging libraries assisting staff and infrastructure, and also upscaling library digital infrastructure as we progress. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. ITU, perhaps you want to take this one in terms of how can we incorporate the issues that they are raising? Because I think this is about maybe the responding to the call for, yes.
So you're raising a very important point. And if you look at the document, the WSIS outcome document that Paul is carrying, libraries have been given a very important status. And one of the targets of WSIS was actually to connect libraries. And UNESCO, ITU, and a couple of other UN agencies who are part of the partnership on measuring ICT for development, they will be looking at this aspect of connect libraries, like what have we achieved. UNESCO definitely takes the lead on this, and you must bring this up into the formal process by inputting into the ITU's call for inputs and to the WSIS forum inputs, so that we can take it in formally as your suggestion into the process. So this is an opportunity that all stakeholders have to contribute to these consultations, so that we can take in your views seriously and build on them. So please do fill into the process and put this important point across. Thank you.
Thank you, Kijantali. Maybe before I give Paul, let me give you the.
Thank you very much, Valeria Betancourt from the Association for Progressive Communications. Just a very brief expression of support to the proposals of our integration of the WSIS and the GDC. I think I want to react to one of the questions that came from the floor in relation to the additional burden and confusion that having two separate processes could create. As we know, monitoring the implementation and assessing the contribution to the implementation of the WSIS action lines is already capacity and resource demanding and intensive. If we are adding another framework that runs in parallel to a framework that is still completely relevant, as the panel has pointed out, we are going to, as I was saying, add an additional burden to an area that is already stressed in terms of, not only to keeping update, but addressing the persistent challenges that we have. So I just wanted to say that I think it would be very important for the different stakeholders to get together and support this idea and explore the most effective ways to integrate the WSIS framework and the GDC under the WSIS mechanisms and structures, including the review and monitoring and follow-up process, a mechanism. Sorry.
Thank you for sharing your perspective. Paul, you can take the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of comments on the questions. I think this issue of the relationship between the GDC and the WSIS process is very important. There is a risk that we will see greater fragmentation in the UN system, a complicated picture that's more difficult for member states and other stakeholders to navigate. It's so important that we use our resources effectively. So I hope that the WSIS process will also help us to make sure that the two complement one another, that they promote cooperation between agencies and clarity around the roles of different parts of the UN system. And we should be building that into our to our preparation for the action line for the review of WSIS. And then finally, the point about libraries, I remember in WSIS plus 10, libraries were a major point of discussion. They made a really big contribution to WSIS plus 10. There was a recognition that libraries provide a critical community level resource for so many people. And we really need to make sure that we are making the most of the contribution they make and the potential they make in these areas. And I hope that that will be a big part of the WSIS plus 20 as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone wanting to take the floor?
Thank you. I'm Lilian Chamorro from Colombia, from an NGO called Nodo, and also from the IGF process, that is the IGF from Latin America. I just want to say that I think it's an opportunity to have also other spaces where we can speak and review also the GDC and also the WSIS, like the NRIs. The NRIs, for me, are spaces where you can find the people working in the countries, working in specific thematics like the youth that are working in the topics that the young people is interested, and the regional spaces like the IGF and other Eurodig and other, where we can see. I think we can see faster what is happening in the floor, what is happening in the countries, what is happening in the region. Then I think more than other things, the NRIs are an opportunity that we have to follow up the WCs, to give ground to that process, because sometimes the WCs, sometimes that kind of process are so high and are difficult to follow. As we said, we don't know, okay, where we are from Colombia, where we are for, I don't know, Namibia, where we are from there. But in the NRIs, we can see what is happening in our countries, what is happening in our floor, and how it is connected with the world agendas. Then I would like that you consider that opportunity that we have with the NRIs.
Thank you for sharing Colombia's perspective on this. And I think the ITU, we have noted this. Anyone asking for the floor? Do we have anyone on the online? I don't see. Okay.
Thank you to giving me the word. I think the matrix of the, say the Mr. of UK, the matrix of the action plan we need to be revised and adapted, because if you see maybe same SDC already need also to revise. And what I suggest, we need to work deeply in the matrix of the action plan. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your perspective with us in terms of what is it that needs to happen. I don't see any other person asking. Okay, all right.
Thank you for giving me a floor again. I just want to have a question also, try to mobilize collective intelligence. I remember that Gitanjali spoke about incubator ideas, GDC or WSIS incubator. I think that was a great idea. Do you know, is there anything already existing that we can pull them together, or any suggestions to implement these kind of ideas? And we need innovations. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give the floor to Gitanjali.
We have been trying to get, investors and supporters, UN agencies to kind of, so we've been to kind of, take these young innovators under their wing. So we did get some UN agencies who gave them internships and, sort of involved them in the work, the work that they're already doing. But there are so many more, like at least from our hackathons every year. We did one on indigenous languages. We did one on healthy aging for older persons. applications. Such brilliant applications were developed by these young people all over the world, but we really are still missing that hub, where we can get all these young innovators together and kind of incubate them, provide. There is one in Geneva, in the University of Geneva with Professor Francois Gray. We are trying to do something. But if you all have any ideas, we really need you to step up and take these young startups or innovators under your wing. So really, this would be something great, and it's missing currently.
Thank you, Kishantali. Any other question? I see no one asking for the floor, so this should bring us to the end of our session. And I really want to take this opportunity to thank all the participants, including the speakers, and thank you again, and looking forward to seeing you at our future session. Thank you very much.